carving, metal painting, glass painting, fairground painting, silhouettes and cut paper, sign painting and primitive painting, wattle drab work. All of those sorts of things feature, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from that, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm doing this exhibition, because I'm interested in popular art and folk art. It inspires what I do. In my sort of development and as an artist, I've been aware of this collection and British folk art and American folk art, and I've looked at it generally because of its directness and its punchiness and its graphic and the wit, and it just has always been an inspiration. You know, in 1997, when this Andrus Kalman collection was touring, I saw it in York Art Gallery and I could remember particular pieces from it. And as soon as Compton Verney opened, I went to see this collection. So it runs deep. But also I feel like, I think in the best of the work that I do, I access something very, very basic. And it's the same sort of thing that made me feel creative as a child. And I feel that that is the best of my work. And I think that probably has the closest affinity to what folk art people do. They draw upon that which is around them. It's real, it's drawn from a real energy, and I think that would be what I would hope that the best of my work has got. So as part of what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm rehanging the collection, and I wanted my work to complement what was there.
It's nice to see. Hold the end.
Yeah, perfect.
You can hold it. Yeah.
We can. You know that, Anna. Okay, so what we're hanging is one of the maritime paintings on this wall. So we've got a group of maritime, coastal, seaside work loosely put together. Oh, it's quite a heavy one. No, I don't want it up there, but I want it grouped. I'd like it there. I mean, how I did it was I began thinking, where do key works go? So having a strong conviction about the placement of certain things, and you get those into position as soon as you can, and that gives you a structure for everything else. And then you see that, but the key thing is I then need to get them on the wall so I can see the space emerging, and then as the space actually comes together, it lends you ideas. So it's very much how I work with the collage. And if you take the height...
Take the height from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the right height, an inch to the right. That's about right, I think. Okay, another inch to the right. Thanks very much, Alan. The interesting thing was that this was supposedly a minimalist space, but it's the most heavily detailed minimalist space you could imagine. There were like stainless steel trims on everything and shadow gaps between panels which made hanging pictures almost impossible. So it was basically an architect's fantasy that had no bearing on the practical function of this space as a gallery. So what we've tried to do is make it more fit for purpose, and I've collaborated with Claire Schimmer, who is an exhibitions designer but also a maker, and she and her husband Richard have made these fantastic wooden panels, a little bit like the divisions that you get in loose boxes in a stable. She liked the idea of them not being too weighty and substantial. So, and I think that's worked out really, really nicely. And also it was her idea to take, you know, a joint on a piece of folk art furniture and use that to make the joints on these.
That's okay.
I'm just going to get a little, that light, and I can put some light on that picture.
Having the oak in here softened it in a way that previously it was very kind of minimalist white box or something.
Yeah, and didn't look like themed. We wanted it to be still really architectural and true to the materials, and the whole idea was to allow enough space around the pictures so that they could speak out really, and you could make visual connections because you read them as a kind of mass before, and so the idea is that you can hopefully now see individual pictures. So, for example, in that, the fat kettle and the fat man next to each other, it's just playing a visual game. That's working in abstract terms as well, in sort of pictorial, visual terms, the sort of blackness of the composition and the sort of simplicity with the graphicness of that form of the kettle is really, really satisfying. So it's a sense of humour, but it's underpinned by formal visual values, and I think if you can get that to work well, that's when something sparkly happens.
And in all these paintings as well, it's things people can relate to.
Yeah.
It's animals and children, and and some of them are really hideous, and so you can go, ugh.
Yeah.
But you don't have to take an intellectual take on it. They're just recognisable.
Yeah.
And that's great.
And yet the interesting thing is that it was put together by a very major dealer in British modernist painting.
Yes.
And the fact that he could appreciate both things, for me, is very, very telling and important, because the work is very powerful in its directness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I better go downstairs because I've left Richard putting shelves up.
Yeah. I love that rare old port, strawberries and cream ladies. It's just charming, so that's one of my absolute favourites. And it may have been that a ruthless gallery dealer cut it in half to get 2 pictures for the price of 1 to sell. Or somehow it was in 2 panels and it was framed like that. But it's this wonderful narrative of this sort of parade with people passing by in an improbable landscape that looks a bit like a Tuscan landscape in an Italian primitive painting. I love the formalisation of the trees here, and then the way I connect them with the cedars of Lebanon outside. How big it is. We're going to look really good.
Back on this and it won't twist. Yeah, well, it's kind of meant to look like it's pierced, fretted out.
It looks better when it's upright.
Yeah, the thing about this sign.
One of the aspects of popular art is the sign writer's art, so it's completely appropriate to get a living sign writer to make a sign.
Either a candy apple, a toffee apple,
Yeah.
that red, a brown and red, or
Yeah.
a purple version.
Yeah.
Brick
Britain.
Yeah,
The brick
I
red.
think it should be. I think it started off as a burgundy.
I'm excited about that. And I knew in a way that getting Ash to bring and make a sign would just frame the whole thing, so it will welcome people into the space. So you've got this popular art collection and the folk art collection together, and so the sign sort of represents both of those things.
You can almost see it's very similar to like being in Dennis Seaver's house.
These are 2 distinct collections, but they're in the same exhibition space, and I think this is a lovely way of bringing them together. Whereas at the moment it might seem like slightly more,
Is this paint totally right?
yeah.
Looks like a lovely thing itself.
Oh, I'm so pleased with that.
That's excellent, isn't it?
Gosh.
Fabulous.
And the stand.
Yeah, we'll put them all up
And then twiddle it.
and we'll glue them
Yeah, and then we'll
and then we'll clamp them.
Okay, good plan.
Okay.
Right, do you want a sandwich before that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready then? Yeah, I'm really delighted.
Everything is mixed by eye.
Yeah, it's really good.